What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to the brother Jeremy Tyler for the $15 donation via the PayPal. And he uh, has a video request. I had a video request. He said, "What's good, Too Raw? I have a video request. How do you think Greg Oden's career would have turned out if he hadn't had the injuries?" Now, for those of you who I would say are 35 and under, or maybe 30 and under, maybe 30 and under, Greg Oden was so heavily touted back in 2007, coming out of Ohio State University, that this is a guy that was a number one overall pick in the 2007 NBA draft, ahead of Kevin Durant. And make no mistakes about it, we pretty much knew what Kevin Durant was capable of being, but that's how great and the potential Greg Oden had. Now, to be fair, this was 2007, and this is when the big man was still more heavily touted, the traditional big man, than they are today. Now we have more of a perimeter orientated, offensive shooting orientated game. So these are the same circumstances. Durant probably been number one. Back then, that's how great Greg Oden was supposed to be. That's why I get irritated, and I think most of us get irritated when they include Greg Oden on the list of busts. I don't think that's the right term for him. Greg Oden's problem wasn't because he didn't play to people's potential. The problem with Greg Oden was injuries. That was his problem. Greg Oden only scored 840 points, only corralled 656 rebounds, and blocked 130 shots. But he only appeared in 105 games in a span of 7 years. Think about that. He missed 4 entire seasons in that 7-year span. 4. And only in one, 2008, 2009, did he play in more than 30 games. So he didn't really have much of a career. Now, what do I think would have happened had he not got hurt? Well, from the onset, he was besieged with injuries. All right. Even in college, he had a wrist injury. So from the get-go, he was probably the most injury-plagued player I've ever seen that was of notable potential, even more so than Bill Walton, because Walton was able to at least have a career the first couple of years. Greg Oden's body began to break down almost immediately. He was 7 feet tall. I think he was around 270. Let me look. Let me see about that. 250. Well, he's listed 250, but I think there were times he was heavier than that. Clearly because of the fact that, he couldn't really get out there on the court. There were times he was a little bit heavier than that. I would say 270, 275. But when he was drafted at Ohio, I would say he's about 250. But this is what I think. Had he not gotten hurt, the first couple of years, because I'm factoring in the rule changes and how the game evolved, but on the low end, I think that he would have been an improved. He would have been Andrew Bynum, probably a little bit better. Whatever Andrew Bynum was, and maybe a little bit better than that on the low end. And I'm being I'm being quite genuine and honest when I say that. I think that his specialty would have been his defense. Or you can make an argument that he could have been Dwight Howard with a more rounded offensive game. That's what I think he would have been. He would have been a perennial all-star, a 20-10 guy for several years. I think he would have won a couple of Defensive Player of the Year awards. And even as the game evolved and became more perimeter orientated, I don't know if he would have ever became a three-point shooter or anything like that. But I do think that he would have still been. I think if he had played, let's say 2007 and maybe retired a couple of years ago or whatever, I think that he would have evolved into being a cog on a potential championship team. If he did have to sacrifice offensively for the way the game was played, he would have positioned himself to be a real defensive threat, unlike the pretender Rudy Gobert. I think he still would have been a guy averaging 15, 13, or 12, about 3 blocks, some real Defensive Player of the Year awards. And I think he would have evolved into being a good passer. You know what I'm saying? I think he would have been a great passer. I'm not saying he would have been Jokic, not averaging 9, 10 assists, but 3 to 4. I think that's very capable of him. When you think about it, Portland really, really got screwed because not just him, but Brandon Roy. People forget how good Brandon Roy was. Imagine a tandem of Brandon Roy and Greg Oden not besieged by injuries in the West. I think they could have been the dominant duo in the Western Conference after the breakdown of the Kobe Lakers. Now, of course, you still had the Spurs, and of course, you would have still had Golden State arriving. But think about it, though. If Portland was good, if Portland had risen to be one of the top contenders in the Western Conference, then that would have brought in some veterans to play there who were trying to win, who didn't go there because they were, over the years and up and down franchise. But if they were building something in Portland, that could have drawn in some key role players, and who knows, man. Now that would have changed certain things in the future. Don't know if they would have acquired Dame Lillard, because if they had a higher seeding, then things would have been different. But still, I think Portland's future would have been better. I think that at his peak, Greg Oden would have been a top 5 MVP candidate for about 5 or 6 year stretch. That's pretty much how I see it. People got to remember that they were comparing him. They were comparing Greg Oden to Shaq back in 2007. You know what I'm saying? Now, I don't know about him being Elijah one. I've seen some of those comparisons. I don't know about that good. I don't know if I would buy that, but I would definitely say he would have been a perennial all-star, potentially. First ballot Hall of Famer, I think, or at least second ballot Hall of Fame, but probably first ballot. Yeah, he would have been good, man. He would have been good, and he would have been probably the best big man in the NBA for quite some time. For quite some time. If I remember correctly, in college, the one year he played in Ohio, he broke his hand. And was forced to play with his left hand, which, when you think about it, is a gift because it teaches a player to become ambidextrous. So, yeah, man, I think he definitely would have been good, man. I think he would have been a really, really good player. That's just my opinion, at least. You know what I'm saying? wasn't the most athletic guy. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't like a guy. When I compare him to Dwight Howard, he didn't have Dwight Howard's athleticism, but his size, his strength, his physical gifts, his skills. Um, and I think as time progressed, he would have expanded his range, worked on his moves, post moves, and then as the game evolved, I think he would have worked more and more on his range. I don't know, maybe a 3-point shot. I don't know. Uh, I don't know 10 years ago if that would have been the case, but he still would have been effective. He's like his defense would have still made him valuable. So anyway, that's just how I look at it. But it's a shame, we'll never know. We'll never know um, as far as what really would have happened. But tell me what you guys think.